You're 19 years old. You have $10,796.92 of debt. You have no income, and you have $844.98 per month in bills. And last but not least is your investments in cash, which are currently at $50.78. Is that all correct?
Yep, sounds about right.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about your current financial situation and why?
Definitely in the negative. I don't think it's on the scale of,
Negatives?
yeah.
I don't think it's
Um,
that bad, but please explain.
well, in my opinion, of course, I guess it's my point of view personally that I see this as like something huge. With mental health struggles, it's really a big thing. So I see this as like a huge, like I need to get on this as soon as possible type of thing.
Yeah, it's unbelievably brutal how mental health and finance goes hand in hand. Because when you're in a bad financial situation, it weighs on you. It increases your anxiety. You're feeling nervous all the time, sometimes with good reason. But on the flip side, once you're in a good financial situation, you'll really understand what it's like to have that stress-free attitude towards money because you'll know that you don't have debt, that you're on track to be a multimillionaire, and that you're going to do great long term. I do agree that your finances are not good. I don't think they're negative bad, but in 6 months, 6 months, we can dramatically fix up this situation. This is a situation that you can quickly bounce back from. So let's go through the debt situation because obviously this is what's weighing on your mind. This is the end all be all of mental health when it comes to finances. It drags everybody down. Once you're debt free, everyone's feeling good. I've never heard anybody complain about their lack of debt.
Yeah.
So let's start with the credit card. We have a Capital One credit card at $2,285.66 with a 32% interest rate and the Discover Student Cashback credit card. You have $535 on it and 80 cents at a 27%. Tell me a bit about how you ended up in credit card debt.
So pretty much my first card was the Capital One card. When had just turned 18, I was under my brother's credit card as an authorized user because he was like, I'll help you out and help build your credit early on. And it was about only 6 months before I turned 18 that he had placed me as an authorized user. I turned 18, first thing I do is check my credit score. It's at a 750. And so I tell myself, why not give it a shot? I wasn't expecting a $2,000 limit. I was expecting at least 500 because I know that that's what every bank normally starts out with. And nope, I applied. They told me, oh, we'll get back to you. And I was like, oh, I got denied. Like, that's okay. An hour later, I get an email. You got approved, $2,000 limit, this and that. And I was like, what? And to me, that was like insane because I was currently working part-time and I was still in high school, finishing off my senior year. And I was like, oh, I could just go and spend all of this right now.
They're giving it to you in high school?
Yeah.
$2,000?
And the
Oh my
thing was
God.
that at first I was like, okay, this is gonna be for, if I have a gym membership, if I have groceries to pay for, this is all gonna go on the credit card and it'll be paid off at the end of every month. But quickly, because of my mental health issues, that turned aside. My relationship with money is absolutely terrible, and I'm a very big impulse spender.
All right, tell me a bit more about that impulse spending. Is it on bad days you need to pick yourself up? Is it feeling that you want to flex on people, want to have the expensive stuff?
It's pretty much on the bad days that I just tell myself I'll like look through Amazon or something. I'm like, oh, there's this thing that I might need. And I just rationalize the purchase and I end up purchasing it. It's something that I could have put towards a bill or savings in general. And that quickly caught up because I was putting it on the credit card and eventually I got to the point where I maxed it out. The first time I maxed it out, that's when I was looking into a balance transfer with Discover. I applied for it and they only approved me for 500 of what was on the Capital One. And so I kept telling myself, should I just leave it and pay it off at 0% for the first 6 months or whatever? And I told myself, you know what? F it. I'm canceling the balance transfer. I maxed that one out too. In a week.
Oh,
In a
Devin, it
week.
hurts. In a week. So how old are you at this point?
I'm freshly 18. It's been like a month of being 18, and I was almost $3,000 in debt.
$3,000 in credit card debt at 18 years old, first month. I mean, talk about a predatory system, a system trying to keep you down. Look, I get it. You're legally an adult, but come on. We all know what 18 is like. You know what 18 is like. You're 19, you're already looking back and said, God, I was not there put together at age 18. It is terrifying what we allow people to do in this country when it comes to credit card debt. So at age 18, 1 month in, you have nearly $3,000 of credit card debt with roughly a 30% interest rate in aggregate. That's madness.
Yeah, and the worst part is that sometimes what I would do is I would just tell myself if I had money from paychecks, I would pay the card off and then use the card again. And it was pretty much as if I didn't pay anything at all.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I have money. Now I just put it as a credit card, but oh, now I have the space free, just like the Discover Student Cashback Card, which was going to be the bounce transfer card. You're like, oh, well, now I have the space here. Why don't
Yep,
I just spend
exactly.
then? First rule I want you to implement going forward: when you're going to shop for something online, you have to leave it in the cart for 72 hours. You just have to leave it there. You can put it in the cart. I won't stop you. I can't stop you. Can't be over your shoulder 24/7. But no more buy now, one quick purchases. We're done with that. You have to put it there and have to leave it there, because what happens with impulse spenders is it is not the thing they're buying that they care about. I imagine a bunch of stuff you've bought on impulse. I would bet you half of it you don't use that often. The other half, I'm betting you found some good purchases
Yeah.
in there, here and there. But I bet the other half is garbage. And you just bought it, you got it, and you're like, okay, this wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. This wasn't as great as I thought it would be. So at least leave it there 72 hours, 3 days, just sitting there. And so when you come back and say, do I really want it? That impulse might be gone. I wish I could just tell you, stop buying. And if you can, just do it. But I also get that breaking habits is hard. So I would commit to a 72-hour rule going forward. When you want to impulse purchase, you got to stick it in there for 72 hours. You can even start a timer on your phone.
That actually sounds like a smart idea. That definitely sounds like a good idea, especially because there's times where even when I'm in a store or of course if I'm on Amazon or something, I'm always the person that's like, oh, look at this. Like I'm gonna get this right now and I just grab it. Normally I do that in a store. And of course, recently I've been doing it a lot more because I'm pretty much broke. I hold on to it, and by the time we're leaving, if I know I don't have the money for it, I just dump it and I'm like, okay, cool, out.
I'm glad you're dumping it, but it's for the wrong reasons. If you had the space on your credit cards, if you had money in your wallet, you would
Yeah.
have bought it.
Hmm.
So you may want to start avoiding stores that make it easy for impulse purchases. For example, grocery shopping. Don't go to like a Walmart or a Target or some kind of store with tons of different sections. Go to a genuine grocery store where your impulse purchase is probably a candy bar.
Yeah.
Right? Avoid stores that let you easily shop around and get to some very expensive stuff. Like Walmart is a great place to shop for groceries at, but it's not great if you're going to walk on over to the computer section and impulse buy a
Yeah.
laptop. Like that's not going to work. Once you're done paying off the credit cards, you're never going back. Credit cards are clearly toxic for you. And they're toxic for most people. Credit cards, by far, have been a negative on Americans' finances. We have all suffered because of them. It is a huge scheme where the rich get richer at the expense of the poor. If you're doing well financially, you can pay it off every month. You get 2% in rewards, roughly. But for most people, they get lured in by the 2% offer, a little reward here, a little bit back on the Uber Eats, and then they pay 20 to 30% in interest, and they struggle forever. And that money then can give other people rewards. It's a very parasitic system. And so once you're done with the credit cards, you're never going back. Your goal is to pay them off and cancel them for good.
Yep.
Clear on that? All right. The next debt you have is really all related to your car, but it's not the traditional car debt. You don't have an auto loan, which is an A plus in your financial situation, by the way. If you had an auto loan, this would be extremely bad. But in your case, you do have car debt, but it's related to tolls and parking tickets. And it's in the thousands. What's going on with this?
So pretty much, I guess I'll start off with the tolls. I would pay them. I got an easy pass on the car, and I pretty much
Good.
preloaded it at the time. And it got to the point where at some point they stopped charging me for the autofill on my balance. So the balance racked up on its own, but they would send the bills to the mail. And so they would charge me double because it was getting sent through the mail instead of being charged to my Easy Pass. So it built up. And eventually I realized that and they're like, hey, you owe me this. And I was like, okay, I don't know why, because I've been trying to like I literally have my card on file for you guys to just charge me the 25, the 50 whenever it needs to be replenished. And they tell me, oh, we don't see a card on file, blah, blah, blah. So I tell them, is there any way that I could do, like, just get rid of it? And they were like, oh, yeah, you could only pay like $50 if you get another Easy Pass. I was like, okay, cool. I'll get the Easy Pass. Paid the $50, fine. Then it happened again. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'll just pay it when it comes in the mail. And that never ended up happening.
Mm, I do not like that decision.
And then with the parking tickets, um, as you could probably tell, I go into the city a lot, judging by the parking tickets and the tolls. I get told every time I go into the city, get told every time I come out. And then parking tickets are normally because cops just love giving tickets in the city. Absolutely love it. A lot of them, I got visiting friends that are in college that dorm in the city. I would stay there and I would be parking either in front of their dorms. So long as I was within an hour away from the no parking 8 to 6, if it was 5:30 p.m., boom, ticket. And if I took it and put it away, they would give me another one on the spot.
The immediate lesson here is that everybody wants your money. That's the whole system. Everybody wants your money. And so, yeah, you have to play the game. And the government really wants its money. And unfortunately, in the case of the tolls and parking tickets, which you know, the government can go
Yeah,
after
they
you on it.
can.
Unlike the credit card company, which they can bring you to court, they can try to garnish your wages, but they have a lot less power than the government, which has crafted laws to make your life miserable. And I believe when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that some of these parking tickets have gone to court.
So pretty much they went into judgment, which means that I owe the original amount plus all of the late fees, and then what they consider to be an automatic guilty unless I fight it. It's been months since I paid them, which is why they keep racking up the late fees and everything. And eventually, the longer, I think if it's over 6 months, they go automatically into judgment, and which is where they cost you like almost triple. And with the parking tickets, they can either boot or tow my car. With the tolls, they could suspend the registration or my license.
This is why car stuff is so dangerous. This is why I actually am more afraid of auto debt and your parking tickets and tolls. All of that scares me more than credit card debt. If you lose your car, it's really hard to make money, which means it's really hard to pay back debt. In this situation, the New York tolls and parking tickets scare the heck out of me because I think you'll have a very tough time finding work if it has to be something you can get to via public transportation or just walking. Imagine how brutal it will be if you don't have a car.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Before we get into your other debt, since it sounds like you're borrowing money from a friend, let's talk about how you're going to handle the Capital One credit card, the Discover student cashback, the New York tolls, and the parking tickets. After we're done chatting, you're going to call every single creditor, all of them. You're going to find whatever their helplines are and say, my bank account's empty. I have no money coming in. I'm looking for work right now. Please help me. The credit card company and the government just want their money. They just want their money. They don't want to harm you. They just want their money. And so they're very forgiving if you're communicating with them. They're not forgiving if they feel like you're a dead end. And they'll have to sell your debt for pennies on the dollar to some debt collection agency who will hound you relentlessly. If you communicate and saying, hey, I'm short on money, please help me out a little bit. And in a few months, I will be back on my feet trying to pay this back as quickly as possible. Getting dollars in a few months is way better than getting pennies right now by selling your debt to debt collectors. When we're done, you call everyone. And it's going to be a call where you're pleading for mercy. Whatever you feel like will make them help you.
I'm gonna have to bring on my acting skills to kind of sell
I
it.
don't think you need to act here, bud. Of all due respect, you're pretty screwed on paper, but you can get out of this because you're doing the right thing when we get the income. I know you're looking for work. So we'll talk about that. You're doing everything right to get yourself out of it. You don't have to act, though. You are in the hole. You need some time. And these different institutions can help you get that time. But you got to communicate. We can't just be letting stuff go to the court system and let the state go after your car. We can't let Capital One decide, instead of just selling your debt to a bunch of debt collectors, which is the usual path, they can take you to court over it. We don't need more courts involved here. We need to get a handle on the situation, but you have to make that phone call.
Okay. I'll make sure to make them literally right after.
Right there we go. That's what I want to hear right after. And that, by the way, is what's going to decide your entire future. I know it seems like a really high stakes phone call all of a sudden, but truly, when it comes to money, there are two groups of people: those who stick their head in the sand and pretend everything is fine, or say they're going to do the right thing and then don't. Like, for example, open a bounce transfer card and then max it out instead of doing the bounce transfer and paying it down. Alternatively, there are people who own up to their situation and just get it done. There are people today who are making $200,000 who are income rich and will be poor for the rest of their lives. And there are people right now who have $50,000 in debt and will become unbelievably rich. They'll be multi-millionaires many times over by the time they retire, and they're doing it on an average income. The difference is, are they acting with good financial knowledge? And in this case, after this call ends, you have the opportunity to act with good financial knowledge. Call your creditors. If you say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'm going to guess you're going to be poor for the rest of your life. And that's brutal because you're not just screwing yourself. If you get married and have kids, now they have to spend their time taking care of you, paying for your situation instead of spending time on taking care of the grandkids, your grandkids. So your choices today influence a lot of future people. I know it's a lot of pressure at 19, but those are the stakes. Lifetime of poverty and harming future generations in your family, or becoming rich. All it comes down to is, at the end of this call, are you going to be somebody who takes action on their finances, or are you going to put your head back in the sand?
Definitely, this whole thing just helped me just make that decision. I'm definitely gonna call them up and be like, hey, I literally have no money in my pockets. I need you to give me time.
And explain that you want to pay them back. Make the call. Say, I'm a good person in a bad situation. I want to pay you back the money I borrowed. It's important to me, but I am without income right now, and my bank account's at $50. I'm working to find a job. I need time. Can you please help me? As for paying off the debts, the parking tickets and tolls come first. They are the least expensive because there's no interest rate attached to them, at least that you're aware of. I see it at 0% in the Plain Talk Money Debt Eliminator. But with that said, the state can go after your car. If you lose your car, it's going to be hard to make income. So you need to get that cleared up first, even though you have credit card debt ticking away at 30%. Once you're done with the tolls and the parking ticket, get the credit card situation under control. As soon as you pay it off, you close it down, rinse and repeat. You will never have a credit card again once these two are done. Okay?
Okay.
Good. Now let's talk about other debts. On the Plain Talk Money Debt Eliminator, you have $4,395 from a friend. Is that right?
Yep, that's pretty much about right.
So is your friend cool with lending you the money? You're still good with them?
Yes, I'm still good with them.
That's incredible. That friend is literally saving you financially right now. And that friend is kinder than I would ever be of my friends. I would not be sitting there saying, yeah, let me write you a check for $4,000 while you can't even pay back your parking tickets, your tolls, and your credit cards. So your friend is a saint. Now, in a lot of situations like this, once you get under control, I actually often try to prioritize paying back the friend first because they're the one giving you extreme generosity here. And the faster you reward that generosity, the better. But the debt you have is so toxic between the parking tickets, the tolls, and the credit cards, it will be the last debt you pay back. And ideally, it will be the last debt you take on besides a mortgage for the rest of your life. And so when this is all said and done, and you're done with the nearly $11,000 of debt, you better buy that friend the absolute best steak dinner they've ever had. And maybe since you're in New York, get them a ticket to Broadway and just make sure that they look back on this as a highlight in their life where they were able to help out a friend and not a regret.
Definitely. I've been with this friend for like years. We've known each other for almost a decade now. And I pretty much grew up with this friend. And they've seen me at my, of course, highest and now in my lowest. And obviously, words aren't enough for me to thank them for like literally giving me this chance. And I do plan on repaying it with, even if it's like a dinner or just anything, to just show my gratitude.
Yes, and that's good. You want to be able to show that gratitude, and you're going to get yourself to a spot to show that gratitude. But to do that, you need to address the income situation. And I know you're working hard at addressing this income situation. So tell me a bit about why, at this time, you have no income.
So I was working about 3 months ago. I had been at this company for almost a year. Out of nowhere, suddenly new management came in. They started hiring more part-timers, started giving them most of the hours, and eventually I just got laid off, sent home out of nowhere. They texted me, you don't have to come in. And ever since then, I've pretty much been looking for anything, whether it be part-time, full-time, office, factory. For all I care, I could be just shoveling dirt outside. I don't, I've been applying to anything and everything, looking around the neighborhood, looking at posters, anything possible, asking family, friends for help too, and seeing what I could do. And thankfully, recently I've fallen upon a few interviews for full-time positions. Just like today, earlier,
Love
I
that.
mentioned that I was at a front desk receptionist interview, and tomorrow and Friday I have two more for a similar job that is part-time as well. Oh, sorry, full-time.
I love that. That's fantastic. So you're doing the right things. And I love that when you got laid off, the first thing was start applying rapidly. Do whatever it takes to get a job. Hit up family, hit up friends, anyone that can help you out here. That's the right action. Did you consider filing for unemployment after you were laid off?
Yes, but I think there was one thing that wouldn't allow me to that I didn't find out until later. It would have impacted my financial aid for school.
Well, as long as you looked into it, I'm going to trust you did a good job there. And are you planning on going to school?
Yes, currently I'm going to college, and it's pretty much the reason why I'm going is because I don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Financial aid covers everything.
That's a good decision in most cases, especially if it's free. People who get higher education have lower unemployment rates and higher median wages for the rest of their lives. What degree are you going to be going for?
So I was planning on getting a bachelor's in education.
So, are you going to be a teacher then?
Yeah, I'm planning on being an elementary school teacher.
That's a wonderful goal. We all like the United States needs more good teachers. So, I'm very excited about that. Also, all the more reason to get your finances in order. We all know that teachers don't make a lot of money. So you got to make sure money's working for you hard here. But that is a great goal to be aiming for. Now, going back to the present, you've got these interviews lined up. You still need to score a job, but I will say the unemployment market is in your favor with an unemployment rate at 3.4%. It's about as tight as it's ever gotten. With that said, have you considered doing things like Uber Eats, Grubhub, Amazon has a program as well. Any other ways to turn some additional hours into money?
So I did try out DoorDash and Uber Eats about a month ago. And the only issue that I found was that normally around here in my area, there's not much. So it's like very, very short when it's busy. And it only lasts for about like 15, 30 minutes, and that's it. If I get a notification saying, oh, this area is busy, I'll get on, stay for as long as I can and for as busy as it is. And if it's only 30 minutes and I make 20 bucks, cool, good enough. I just do that as much as I possibly can. And day to day, I keep looking and making sure that I'm up to date with just how busy the areas are around me.
I'm impressed. That's the right answer. Good. I would also look into the Amazon program for delivering packages. That might be a little bit easier in terms of not having these random demand spikes around lunch or dinner. But I like what you're doing. Also, make sure to do the math to figure out when it's beneficial to be out there, even if it's not too busy. Because if you make $8 in an hour, that's not much, but it sure beats zero at home.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you can do, just get a little bit of money coming in, that would be very, very, very helpful. For these desk jobs that you're applying to, let's say you get one. Do you know how much roughly it'll pay?
So the one that I interviewed for today would pay 17.50 an hour, and it would be guaranteed 40 hours a week.
2,800 pre-tax. So that's not bad. That's not bad. With $844.98 worth of expenses, which can come down in a couple areas, you actually are on pretty good track to pay back this debt if you score this job. You still have to live in a pretty humble manner for half a year. But if you're able to throw $2,000 a month at it, roughly, which means not only are you dealing with the full-time job, but you're also doing those little driving opportunities from Grubhub and Uber Eats, and we reduce your bills a bit. Let's say you throw 2,000 a month. We can probably wrap up your situation 6, 7, 8 months. You have a little bit of interest you're going to have to fight your way through. But that's pretty good. That's pretty good. By the end of this year, you could be debt free. How would that make you feel?
Of course, it would be finally just, it would feel nice to just breathe without having that hanging over my head, like the whole losing my registration or insurance or license or.
Yeah, it's a giant guillotine. Just your head's in it. The moment you get rid of this debt, you're out. You're not in the guillotine. Most Americans are in the guillotine, but you wouldn't be this next year. Let's extend the time a little bit from June 1st, because we're recording this right now on May 31st, 2023. June 1st, that next 12 months, you need to have your nose to the grindstone. You're going to be driving when you can make money. You're going to be working the 40-hour weeks once you nail down the job. And in a year, roughly halfway through 2024, you're going to be debt free. And you're going to close every credit card. And we're not going to have this happen again. And the easy pass stuff, no more waiting for them to mail you the bills. Every single time they say there's a problem, you'll get a new pass and you'll try to fix it again.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. I did want to say, for your in-person purchases, going back to the debt briefly, going forward, just use cash in your wallet. No more swiping a debit card. You'll probably still need a debit card for online purchases. Fine. But for your in-person stuff, withdraw money using a debit card and paying cash. You want to make shopping inconvenient for yourself as an impulse shopper. The more inconvenient it is, the less likely you are to say, okay, I'll put up with all this pain of trying to get money so I can pay and I get a bunch of quarters back and pennies. The less likely you are to make those purchases because just such a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
Yeah, really annoying. You're going to cash from now on. You're going to go to cash. You can have a debit card so you can withdraw money as you need it and do online purchases as you need with the 72-hour cart rule where you just leave it in there for 3 days. You come back and say, do I really need this? Now let's talk about your bills for a little bit. Overall, your situation isn't that bad when it comes to bills. There are areas for improvement, but it isn't that bad. And the thing that's standing out to me is your rent and mortgage. $0. The perfect rent and mortgage. What is your current living situation?
At the moment, I'm living with the same friend that's loaning me that money.
That person is a saint, a literal god or goddess. They are bailing you out. Wow. $0. They're not making you pay for utilities. That's also zero. Not making you pay for internet. That's also zero. Not making you pay for cable if they have any. Also zero. That is an incredible friend.
Yeah.
Actually mind-blowing. The thing your friend clearly wants you to do is dig yourself out. They're trying so hard to get you out. So start there. Then once you're out of the hole, give your friend a huge thank you. An absolutely massive thank you. Your eating out budget is $250 a month.
Yeah.
Tell me about your eating out. Your eating out is more expensive than your grocery bill.
Yeah, the eating out is really bad. Normally, if there is nothing in the fridge for me to cook, I take the easy way out. And I order out. I honestly, that's the one thing that I just want to get rid of.
Great. That's easy to do. Are you doing Uber Eats?
Yep, both.
Do they use the same app for both driving as well as...
No, they both have separate.
Great. Pull out your phone right now and delete the apps that let you order food in. We're done. It's over. Delete them both. I want the phone purged of easy ways to buy anything.
They're off.
Every one of them?
Yeah, I only have those two.
I would rather you be guillotining, assuming that's a word, guillotining away different apps instead of having the financial system put your head in the guillotine and get rid of you. It is way better to be the person removing obstacles between you and financial success than to be the person getting bludgeoned by the system. So we're not downloading those again. We're done. It is okay to spend a little bit more on groceries for some easy pre-made stuff that you can eat on a dime. It could be cereal bars that you put on the highest shelf so they're a little inconvenient. So you only want to get them when you're really hungry. It could be a frozen pizza in the fridge. It is okay to spend a little more on groceries if it means you're not going to impulse buy some Chinese food or Italian food on Uber Eats. Again, we go back to the two paths. One is towards poverty, where you're a burden on your future kids and grandkids. And the other path is you becoming ludicrously rich, a multimillionaire when you retire, who can take care of their family and their grandkids. You have to pick. Which do you prefer? Uber Eats or millions of dollars? Because that's where you're at right now. That is the crossroads.
Definitely think the $1 million is better.
And look, the $1 million might sound like a fantasy. I'm not joking. Most people your age, if you're 19 years old, should retire with about $2 million if they handle their money correctly and they make an average or slightly below average salary. You should be able to become a multimillionaire on a teacher's salary. Before you get there, before you really sit down and figure out compound interest, investing in the stock market, what an index fund is, what a target date fund is, you have to get out of the hole you've dug yourself in. You have to undo the financial mistakes you've made. And so, no, once this is all done, once you've wrapped up your nearly $11,000 worth of debt, you'll have a lot of fun watching your money grow. You'll be buying companies. Now, instead of companies making profit off of you, you'll be profiting off the companies because you'll own the companies because that's what the stock market lets you do. You buy shares in a company, you're a shareholder, also known as a company owner. Feels pretty good. You want to own Apple? You buy a share of Apple. Congratulations. Might as well call yourself Steve Jobs because you own Apple. That is how money is supposed to work when you know how the system works, and it's available to everybody. But right now, we've got to get you to that point. We've got to get you back to the place that you were when you were born. $0 net worth, and then your eyes will be on the prize on that multi-million-dollar status.
Sometimes I look into all the stock markets and different types of retirement accounts, and I'm like, damn, like it would be nice to just put it all in and then let it work for me instead of being it the other way around.
Yeah, 100%. You're basically working for Capital One and Discover. You're working for the state government. You got a bunch of jobs that don't pay you anything, but you certainly are working hard for them, trying to get them money so they can make money off of you. It's insanity. And they're stressing you out. They're stressing you out. On the flip side, there are people who get paid by the state government because they loaned money to the state government. There are people who own Capital One stock and are paid by people like you who have to pay money to Capital One. And you can pick which side of the coin you're going to be on. I do like that you're already aware of that space. You're already aware of the way out of poverty and into a place of being wealthy, being successful. You know the door is there. You were looking at investment accounts, looking at investment opportunities. Good. Keep looking at them. Keep getting excited about them. Because in a year from now, that's going to be your world. In a year from now, you're going to be the one in charge. But it's going to require no more Uber Eats, no more DoorDash. It's going to require getting a full-time job while driving for companies that you can't afford to be buying from. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub. Again, look into the Amazon program because that might make your life a little easier because they don't have peak hours in the same way. A year from now, you can be on the path to becoming a multimillionaire. Do not lose sight of that. As for your investments in cash, you have $50.78. To be blunt, I don't have much to say about it other than that is a bad situation to be in.
Yeah.
That is pretty darn brutal. Normally, how getting out of debt works is you put $1,000 in your bank account and then you deal with the debt situation. But in your case, while I do want you to save up $1,000 in your bank account, even before that, you need to deal with the tolls and tickets that are currently in court. You cannot have the state government going after your ability to drive. That must be dealt with first. And then after that, you can take a break from the tolls, tickets, and credit cards and build up $500, $1,000 just to give yourself a little bit of breathing room. And also, I would say, as a bit of a behavioral test, If you can't build up that money, you will be poor for the rest of your life. That's a fact. After the $1,000 is built up, deal with the debt that is very urgent, but not in court levels of urgent. Your other tolls and parking tickets, followed by your credit cards. You're going to start with the Discover card because it's the lowest balance, and then you're going to deal with the Capital One. Even though the Capital One charges you more in interest, you have behavioral issues when it comes to money. I want you to just pay off one of the credit cards as fast as possible. I want you to get used to the feeling of closing it, and so that you know what it's going to be like when you get through the behemoth that is Capital One.
Yeah, I definitely just want to get past it and just have that feeling of it's finally done. It's over.
Good. And it's going to be over forever. Once you close the door, it will never open again. Throughout this entire conversation, the one thing underlying it is mental health. You've mentioned you're an impulsive spender. Are there other mental health issues that have been impacting your finances?
I would definitely say that there's definitely been some mental health factors within the reason why I'm at this point now. I pretty much suffer from severe depression. And it gets to the point
Okay.
where when this was all happening, at some point I acknowledged it, but because of everything that was going on inside my head, I just dug my head in the sand, let it go, told myself, okay, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow ended up being months later, and I found out how screwed I was, and that's when I told myself, no, this is like I need to get out of this. And it's happened before to me, but not with finances, more so with school. I almost didn't graduate out of high school because of how bad my mental health was. So it's definitely something that I take into consideration when going through things like this. And
Have you sought out professional help when it comes to your mental health situation?
I have in the past, earlier on during high school, and eventually it got to the point where I just didn't want anything. And more recently is when I recently started seeking out professional help again and got the help that I was looking for back then.
To be successful financially, you're going to need to get your mental health into a good place. So keep seeking out help, even if it costs money and it slows down the rate at which you pay back debt. It's better to pay it back slowly than to try to pay it back quickly and then regress and lose all that progress. It would be tragic if you pay off a credit card and then max it out again. It would be tragic if you deal with your parking tickets and then you stop caring about paying for parking tickets again and you start racking it up again. Right? I want you to be successful. I want you to, in a year from now, to be rock solid on your finances.
I've definitely seeked out help and I'm currently seeing two professionals. I'm seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist, and I'm getting the help that I pretty much wanted 5 years ago. So it definitely feels nice to finally be getting the treatment that I was looking for back then.
Good. I'm proud of you. That's a brave choice, and I love that. That is incredible, not just from a mental health perspective, but from a financial perspective. That is, oh, so good. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
That's one of the highlights overall, I would say, of your financial situation is that you're getting help with your mental health, and that 10 out of 10. Well done. After this call is done, you're making all the phone calls. You're going to look into any other apps that can give you work. So if you're doing DoorDash and Uber, consider Grubhub and that Amazon program, which I keep touting, but seems like a good opportunity for you because it doesn't have those peak hours. You're done with eating out. You've gone ahead and deleted the apps, and you're going to make an actual effort here to try to keep some additional food in the house, like a frozen pizza, hot dogs, whatever. You can figure it out. Something that will scratch your itch. You are going to use cash for in-person payments from now on. You can keep a debit card for the online purchases, fine, but in person, you're paying of cash. In addition to that, online purchases, 72-hour rule. And last but not least, once you're done with the tickets and tolls, you're going to pay off the Discover card. You're going to close it. As soon as it hits zero, it's not an opportunity to buy more anymore. You're going to hit zero. You're going to close it. Capital One, zero, close it. And in 1 year, if you score that job you described, $17.50 an hour, 40 hours a week, in a year, you can be done with all your debt, including the money you borrowed from your friend. And you get to turn your eyes to what you should be focused on, which is becoming a multimillionaire. Does that all sound correct?
Definitely. I definitely just want to start tackling this as soon as possible and just start working towards getting out of the spot and just pretty much just making it up to myself in a way.
Yeah, it's you. I would say it's time for you to be proud again, because I don't think you can be proud about this situation. It's a mess. But you're 19. You have so much time ahead of you. Yes, the system screwed you. You had nearly $3,000 over credit card debt 1 month into being 18 years old. It's ludicrous. It's insanity. But you deserve better. You deserve to get your pride back. You deserve to take care of your family and grandkids later in life. And you can do that by, as soon as this call is done, calling every single creditor and pleading for a little bit of mercy to see what they can do to help you out, whether it's to suspend payments, reduce the overall cost, whatever it is. And you can get started on the path towards success. How are you feeling right now?
Right now, I'm definitely feeling like I know now where to start off in terms of who to call. Of course, I'm calling all of them, but of course, I'm gonna start with the people that are trying to just flat out take me off the road for not paying the parking tickets, and then afterward, I'll deal with the credit cards and see what they can do for me as well.
Excellent. Then, Devin, thank you so much for having this conversation here today with me and coming on the Plain Talk Money.